was out there in the night sky, stared up at the stars in the hopes of seeing something out of the ordinary? Have you heard unexplainable noises coming from a vacant room, or watched a shadow cross the wall in front of you? Have you asked yourself if there is life after this one, or if you had life before? What about strange creatures that are mythical and elusive? Have you experienced deja vu or felt a prompting to leave because you felt you were in danger? If you have, you were on the fringe.
Welcome to another episode of On the Fringe. I'm Mark.
I'm Pam.
And I'm Jess.
Yay, the gang's all here. Well, tonight
Hi,
we have another exciting episode. We're going to be talking about Hoia Baciu Forest in Transylvania, Romania. So, I mean, there's all kinds of legends. I mean, there's some stuff trying to tie it to the whole Vlad the Dracul thing. So it should be really interesting. Before we get started, I wanted to get some housekeeping done. So here we go. Hey, this is Mark with What If Tomorrow and What If Tomorrow on the Fringe. Be sure to check out our website, whatiftomorrowmedia.com, and look at our cool merch. We've got t-shirts, hoodies, posters, and more. Our affiliates are Duke Cannon, EMP Shield, My Patriot Supply, and Conflicted the Game. Or check out buymeacoffee.com/whatiftomorrow and buy us a coffee. And as always, be sure to like, comment, and share on both Facebook and YouTube. It helps get our content out to others and help our channel grow. Now on with the show. All right. So, well, let's talk a little bit about Hoia Baciu before we get started. Hoia Baciu Forest is, cannot pronounce the name of the town probably right. I'll probably tee somebody off.
Tee away.
Cluj-Napoca.
That's exactly how I would have pronounced it.
Sounds good to me.
Let's just put Cluj. Because, you know, I butcher the English language. I'm sorry, but I'm going to do a worse job on everybody else's. I mean, when I learn to speak my own language, maybe I'll do better on other people's.
Same.
So, Cluj. So, it's there. It's in Transylvania, the most famous part of Romania, where Vlad the Dracul impaled his enemies. I'm not sure how many miles it is, but it's close enough that people have, lumped this all together. And it's named after a sheep herder who went into the forest with his 200 sheep and were never seen again, neither him or the sheep. So
it was
it's
bad.
Yeah, it is.
That was bad.
So it's not a very big place. It's what, 3 square kilometers?
Yeah, it's not that big.
It's like a square mile and a half.
How do you lose 200 sheep and a shepherd in that
in that
area?
Small of an area? You think it's going to be this huge, giant forest, but it's really not very big. And then it's got this right in the middle. It's got this big, open, egg-shaped place where no trees grow.
Yeah.
So
it's 729 acres.
Wow.
So
yeah,
it's smaller than Pooh's forest.
Oh, it took me a minute to see where you were going with that.
Yeah, I mean it's smaller than Winnie the Pooh's house.
100 mile acre.
Yeah, it's the 100-acre wood.
100 acre. I said 100 mile acre.
Well, whatever it is.
I'm a little delulu today.
Well, some of you may have noticed my subtag here. My brain is cooked. It was very hot in the shop today, and I may or may not make any sense. Of course, for those of you who watch or listen on the regular, you will know that that's not that much different from normal. I may just be a little bit farther out left field than normal. So I apologize for that.
Who?
So lots of missing people around Hoia Baciu. Lots of one of the famous disappearances was a 5-year-old girl who disappeared, and 5 years later showed up, still 5 years old, wearing the same clothes she was wearing. Didn't know what happened.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that she didn't age, it was obviously the strangest portion of all
And
that.
had no memory of what happened. So, yeah, that's pretty strange. So it could have been just a few minutes for her.
It's kind of proof that time isn't linear, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of time slips, missing time. Lots of people losing track of time. Again, it's not a very big place.
Mm-mm.
It's not. I think I can probably find a aerial photo if I look hard enough that shows the whole thing. I mean, it just you fly over it with the airplane, and it's there. Then with a hole in the middle.
There's comment.
You
He
know,
said, "I didn't notice, Mark." Nice shirt, though. It is pretty fabulous. For those that are listening, Mark has a shirt on that has Bigfoot and aliens, and I see Nessie on there and UFOs. Pretty slick.
Yeah, I break it out once in a while. Don't want to overdo it, but
Mark Fashionista.
Right?
Well, I've been learning from my good friend Enzo.
They are setting the bar.
Yeah.
He has set the bar, and I've got to try to follow.
Yeah, some
Stepping
high
it up,
fashion, some Enzo fashion.
Yes.
If we could all only live up to it.
Right. Yeah, I don't even try. Forever fails, so I don't even try.
Yeah. So do we want to touch a little bit on the missing time aspect of it? Because Pam and I actually have quite a bit on that.
Yeah, let's do that. That's
cool.
one of the really fascinating things about this forest.
Yeah. So if you go back last year, Pam and I did an entire series on missing time and time slips, and we included Hoia Baciu in it. Not as a full huge thing, of course, because we have a tendency to run long. So we kept things short. But when we were researching just solely for the missing time stories, we actually found a few extra ones that aren't included. If you look up Hoia Baciu on the internet, the first like 20 some pages are going to be the exact same write-up, only just renamed and then added to a new page. It's really sad. So we did
Greatly
some deep dive in.
recycled.
Yes, extraordinarily recycled. That's a good term for it, Pam. Recycled.
Part of that is they're trying to get people to visit. It's actually a pretty popular tourist destination in Transylvania. So part of that is, if you'll probably find the original article comes from like a press release or something. I would almost bet you.
Yeah, so one of the first ones that we found, actually I can't remember, it was me or Pam, but was actually from hundreds of years ago. It was from the 1500s. There was a very tiny village, and the name of it's kind of been lost to time, but there was a little tiny village that sat on the outskirts of the forest, and they were having issues. It kind of reminds me of like M. Night Shyamalan and that one movie he did.
Yeah,
the villagers would, they would go into the forest to go hunting and, to forage for things. And more often than not, villagers would go in but wouldn't come back. And it became so infamous for this that they stopped allowing the villagers to go in. The villagers stopped, they weren't going to go in there to go hunting anymore and things like that. And the village eventually just kind of moved away from the area. But there are stories now from even nowadays where they claim that they see these people walk out of the woods dressed in this really weird old peasant style attire. And there was even one account where they had a woman walk out in full peasant attire from that time, and she didn't speak the language. Of course, the language has changed a lot over the years, as do most languages.
Yeah.
They had a hard time understanding her, but they emptied her pockets, and they found extraordinarily old Romanian coin and Roman coin mixed in her pockets. So, that alone right there.
Like highly, very expensive coins. So this isn't someone that
Yeah.
would be just walking around, just get him out of grandpa's thing and make it look like, oh, I'm cosplaying. No, the stuff she had was very antique, very, very expensive and very hard, very rare is the word
Yeah.
I'm looking for. Yeah.
We also found a story that was as early as back in the 1990s, and I don't remember the exact date, but a family had gone in for a little hike and had actually gone missing for about 5 days. They had sent people in to look for them. They were not to be seen, and as you heard Mark say, the place isn't extraordinarily huge, so I would think that it would be maybe not simple to sweep, but with enough people, you could probably do a good sweep of that area. They didn't find them, but 5 days later, they came walking out the other side of the forest from where they'd entered and had no clue that they had been missing for 5 days. They thought they'd only been gone for a couple of hours, and thought they'd actually walked into the clearing that Mark mentioned earlier that's in the middle, and then turned around and took the same path back out, when in all actuality, they ended up clear on the other side and almost like a direct line path from where they started. So that one was recorded as early or as late as the 90s.
Yeah.
So this is kind of
This forest is small enough. 100 or so people could stand within eyesight of each other and sweep through the whole thing and cover it in an hour or two.
And if anybody's a fan of Destination Truth, back in the early days, season 3, Josh Gates, he took his team to the haunted. It's titled The Haunted Forest, and he took his team out there. And if you've watched it before, if you recall the episode where they're in the antique plane and the roof rips off mid-flight, it's that episode. They had to make a emergency landing, and then they took ATVs on in and found the circle. And they saw lights in the forest. And then one of the guys that, I can't remember what his position was. I kind of think I don't think, may have been a producer or something. He wasn't one of if I remember correctly, he wasn't one of the actual paranormal team members. But he's setting crisscross applesauce in the middle of that clearing and gets pulled up and dragged backwards. And you can see him in the footage. I mean, you can tell when somebody jumps up, in the footage, you can see his whole body fling up and back, and his legs, just willy-nilly
And
as
he looked
flies
panicked.
back.
He
Was very panicked. Yeah, extremely so. That's one of I ended up actually purchasing that episode on my Amazon account to keep because it was such an interesting footage.
Josh goes to a lot of interesting places.
He does.
Really does. So,
especially the early days, they had some really cool places that they went, things that they did.
I'd like to have his budget for travel. I'm not going to lie. If I were to win the lottery, we would probably waste everything on plane tickets,
travel
to go to some of these
Heck
places.
yeah.
I mean, I just chomp at the bit to go to some of these places.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Whether I actually did anything or not there.
Just to say that you were there.
Right.
Yeah. Just to breathe the air and feel the atmosphere. And yeah.
So, all right. Well, we've got quite a few Do you want to keep going with the time slips or?
Well, that's all I have of like the really recorded ones. They just mention that it happens quite frequently. If you hit a good Reddit page, it's a little bit harder because a lot of them are in another language, but you can hit the translate. They're a little bit harder to read. But there are a lot of personal accounts of people who have gone in and claim to have missing time. I went in for an hour, realized I'd been gone an entire day. that kind of situation. It's quite prevalent. Now, whether or not they're just pandering to the tales and want to have like a little piece of the pie too, I can't, say for certain if what they're saying is absolutely true, but it's quite prevalent if you go and check that out. But I think what we should do is really kind of go over all of the paranormal and weird and high strangeness stuff that happens with it, so everybody at home can kind of get an idea of what kind of insanity we're looking at. Do you guys want to like start listing? Because it's a list.
Yeah, it's. I mean, there's all kinds of UFO sightings, including back during the Cold War when it was against the law to talk about UFOs, and they would. The legal thought was if you saw something like that and talked about it, that you were a madman. And there's a military worker who reported and showed pictures, and of course he lost his job. He couldn't find a job after that because they didn't trust him.
We'll talk a little bit more about him in a little bit when we hit like the UFO, because there is a huge backstory to him and the other guy that took photos.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Is that the Emil Barnea guy?
Mm-hmm.
And more words I
Striff
can't
or
pronounce.
Right?
Yeah. So, okay, let's just list really quick so they can be amazed by what this place is. It is high strangeness through and through. So, people have strange symptoms when they walk in, apparently. They get nausea, fatigue, anxiety, dizziness. They have a feeling of being watched. Failing electronics, batteries draining, weird lights, hauntings, ghosts, shadow figures, strange otherworldly noises, weird magnetic fields, electromagnetic phenomena, UFO encounters, strange creatures, wildlife acting oddly or out of character, missing time, time slips, weird burns, red marks on hands and skin, and a multitude of other
Claw marks.
Yeah, claw marks, anything that you can think of. 1,001 stories to go with it. Another interesting thing about Hoia is the trees, and it's one of the reasons why people were drawn to this place in the first place. Now, if you look at the trees on the very outside of the forest, they're perfectly fine and normal with the area, but as you get deeper into the forest and the closer you get to the clearing that we discussed earlier, suddenly the trees become very strange. They start bending and warping. Yeah, here, Mark's pulled up a very good picture of this. They have actually studied this for years, trying to figure out why the trees do this. Another interesting effect is that they all bend the same counterclockwise way the closer you get to that central circle. They have no idea.
Which is interesting because, if it would be like a cataclysmic event, where it was just a boom, happen really fast, you wouldn't see the growth pattern. I mean, I'm pointing at like you guys can see what I'm pointing at. Where it comes up straight just a little bit and then has the big hook to it.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
It's just crazy in there. Let's see if that one. I hope that's not the one I wanted.
But yeah, they have those twisted trunks. It's really, really strange. And I know that some skeptics have said that it could be due to environmental stress or poor soil conditions. But
They've done soil studies and they said that's totally normal.
Yeah, I don't see that at all.
Yeah, I will say I found I did a little bit extra research these last couple of weeks to add on to what Pam and I had already done, and I found a little bit more on that. I actually found locals that had talked about, apparently for hundreds of years, the locals have said that clearing and, where nothing grows, it's absolutely not true. They said it's extraordinarily lush and full of wildflowers, but it's never grown a tree inside of it or a bush or anything else other than grass and wildflowers. They call it the kept.
Huh.
The clearing there is called the kept because it looks as if it's always been kept up to like be an opening for something, but they don't know who's keeping it up and who's been doing it for hundreds of years. So their theory there is actually that this is the aliens, that this is a spot for them, and they keep it cleared for their own designs.
Now, this is an old picture. More modern pictures are it's shrunk a little bit. But this is an old picture of the center.
I was trying to find the name for Poiana Rotunda is what the locals call it, and it's called the Kept Round Meadow.
Yeah, Rotunda would be round.
But it's part of the folklore in the area that it's been kept by something other than us for hundreds of years.
It would be very easy to see from the sky,
Yeah.
that circular
right there in the
area.
middle. I think I've got a good, more modern picture of it someplace.
The interesting part is the fact that the soil, there's nothing wrong with the soil, though.
No, there's nothing
yeah.
wrong. They said it's
Because-
absolutely lush and
Yeah,
Just
you would
no
think
trees.
if like Delphos ring, where they did the soil samples, to this day the soil is still contaminated, and
Right.
you would think if it was a case like that there would be some type of contamination somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah. Now
don't
these
know,
days it's got 4-wheeler tracks all through it.
Oh yeah,
Well, yeah, it's a place that people love to go camping and hiking and probably four-wheeling now that those are around. I think
Yeah.
that I saw a picture of it in the snow, and you could see the four-wheel tracks in the snow
Yeah.
through the central
It,
there.
it looks like it's kind of like a roundabout now.
Yeah.
yeah.
They've got trails through the forest, and they all seem to go through the center part, which has shrunk somewhat.
Huh. That's interesting.
Like maybe all the extra people are running off whatever's keeping it. I don't know.
I also wonder, the area is also known, it's they found years ago one of the oldest settlements in the area. It was a Neolithic settlement from 6500 BC. Right there at the forest and everything. And it makes you wonder if maybe
Yeah.
that circle, if there isn't something underneath of it, maybe some stonework or something that we can no longer see.
That could
I
be
couldn't-
tombs and houses from were uncovered in the settlement were uncovered between 1960 and 1994.
Hmm.
So
So maybe
is
there's
quite an
something underneath
archaeology.
of it we can't see stone wise. Maybe that doesn't allow trees to really take root.
be about the
Although,
right
I
size for a castle or a small fort, like a Roman fort, maybe.
Yeah. I would be interested to know if anybody had done any like ground penetrating radar or
Radar.
anything like that before.
Yeah,
That would be interesting to know.
Yeah, I want to say somebody was looking for graves there. Maybe that might have been
Probably trying to figure out if it was like a sacred site or something,
right.
potentially.
I mean that makes sense. It could have been a ritual site or something for
It
that.
could have been. And it makes me, I have a fascination with harmonics. I wonder if there's something that could play into that. That would be there's some places where you can hear like the Taos hum and things like that. Maybe it's something that we can't hear, but that would keep animals away too.
Yeah.
If it's
Well-
something odd like that.
I mean, I don't think you're far off. So, Adrian Petruit, I think his name was Petruit. He was friends with one of the gentlemen who took photos of one of the famous UFOs there, and we'll talk about him there in a second. But he actually is still the main guy today. He's the one that knows all the stuff and does the research. In fact, I think he put a book out not extraordinarily long ago, just on the forest itself, and he thinks it's all about infrasound.
Yeah,
It could be.
it very well could be. Enzo, when we were talking about the trees being bent at odd angles, he put in the comments, I think I've bought 2 befores at Lowe's that came from those trees.
I've seen those.
Absolutely.
You may be right.
So before we move on to the UFO stuff, let's go through some of the haunted stuff because I threw some pictures in that Pam and I had used. There's some creepy stuff going on in this place.
There is. And, you know,
Yeah.
some of the things while you're pulling those up, Mark, some of the things that happen, they have like the sudden temperature drops when they get near that area, which is really interesting.
Like that looks like
Ooh,
Bigfootish
like
or
Yeah, so they
like
have
bipedal
multiple strange
something.
creatures. Not to mention, I said earlier when I was listing out all the strange anomalous stuff that happens, they have like regular animals that you would find in a Romanian forest, but they will often do weird things, like suddenly stand up on their back legs and start walking towards you, and they'll like say something in a human speech. So Lord knows what that thing is hiding back there. It could be like a dog man. It could be like a Bigfoot type of situation.
Yeah.
Who knows?
yeah, there's weird stuff out there.
Yeah,
And
you'll
like, there's some weird pictures out of there.
there's tons of weird pictures. In fact, one of the legends to the place is that you can go in and not see anything but take lots of photographs. But if you hear, they call it the whispering children.
Yes.
You'll hear
yeah.
sounds like children playing or laughing or talking, but it sounds like they're far away, but it's being like kind of brought in on the wind. They say if you hear that while you're taking photos, something will show up in your photo that you don't see in front of you. And that's what a lot of these photos supposedly are. I found this one, I thought was interesting. They were all excited about the orbs. I could give a crap about the orbs. Well, I was more interested in this smoky, or
Yeah.
this
Right.
thing we're seeing on the side. If you're listening at home, it's a photo of a very dark, like nighttime photo with an old tire in it and stuff like that. But off to the side is a very wispy, very bright white. It almost has like a human shape, almost like
Yeah,
a
it
stick
does,
figure
yeah.
thing going
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
It almost looks like a bipedal shape. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got the place is just crazy.
It is. It's also known at. Could you pull up the picture of the eyes? It's one of the things it's best known for is the red, blue, and green eyes that will shine back out at you and stare.
This will be a little different because for some reason I can't get it to pull up in images. So
All right, it's
hold
fine.
on.
See if you can.
So
It's one of the ones you'll hear most about if you go reading up on personal stories. Is the feeling of being watched, and then all of a sudden you'll see these like red, blue, or green eyes just shining out at you from the darkness.
there you go.
Nice.
Yeah, there we go. Creepy.
It is creepy. You can almost, I mean, I'm sure it's a little bit of
That almost looks like a
oh,
snap
that's the
there,
word.
Yeah.
like a werewolf.
Yeah. It really reminds me, the first time I saw it, it kind of freaked me out a little bit. It reminded me of The Secret of Nim when the owl is in the darkness before it steps out for the first time and you just see those eyes.
This you can almost see almost a chin and a mouth. you
Yeah,
know.
it looks like a snout, kind
Yeah.
of. Almost
Kind of
looks
like
like a bear
Alien
snout.
or Predator, I guess.
Mhm.
Especially when you zoom out, it kind of looks ursine.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's pretty weird.
Creepy. Yeah.
Yeah.
A peeker.
Super creepy.
Yes, a peeker.
All sorts of stuff. Ugh.
Yeah.
There's some really, when it comes to the paranormal stuff, I mean, there's, we talked about the sudden temperature drops. There's electronic device failure that happens consistently. Compasses spin erratically, which is very interesting. Batteries on smartphones will drain significantly faster than normal.
Cameras.
Yes. You've got the unexplained sounds. We kind of talked a little bit about that, about the whispers but they'll also hear really heavy footsteps circling, the area with
Dead
no
zone
visible
for
source.
radio and telephone.
Yes.
Yep.
hmm
Yeah.
There's
Which
visual
shouldn't be bad
anomalies like
service,
we were
but they're
talking
right there by
about.
that city. So,
Yeah, it shouldn't
Yeah.
be bad.
Tons of like light anomalies, will o' the wisp.
Yes.
Don't follow them in type of situation. Don't follow them.
Yep. And you've got
Scary stuff.
your visual anomalies too. Like there's the shadows. You see the figures moving in the trees, like we were talking about. And at the edge of the flashlight beams, they'll see figures moving that they can't just quite get a lock in on.
right.
it really reminds me that I love the Fae, and that's immediately where I go is suspected Fae activity when it comes to stuff like that. You've got the physical effects too, though. You've got people will get extremely dizzy and sick and get
nausea.
the feeling of being watched. Which that can come with EMF. You can get that really creepy feeling that you're being watched. So, I don't know. It's just really some wild stuff that
I
happens.
would love to go and investigate.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd even camp there for a couple days, and anybody who knows me knows my idea of roughing it is now renting an RV.
Yes.
So I would be
Same.
willing to set up a tent and camp out there for a couple days just to see what shows up. Of course, they might lose me forever, but
I'd be willing to hang out in the hotel and keep in touch with you by radio to make sure that it's all okay. I come out during the day.
Your sacrifice for our investigational.
Yes.
It knows no end.
Pam.
Yeah.
Always willing to sacrifice herself for the greater good.
Heck yeah.
Right. You're sitting with her champagne in the hot tub. Like, yeah, I'll send somebody right out.
That's funny. Right?
Oh my goodness.
You want me to call the cops? The Ranger Service?
I don't speak
I could,
Romanian, but I'll do my best.
I could imagine her coming through on a walkie like, hey guys, just so you know, there's something with red glowing eyes just to the left of you. You might want to get out of there.
Yes.
Okay, bye.
Yes.
My pizza's here. Gotta go.
Yeah. Ding dong. Whoops. You didn't hear that. Enzo said Pam's going to hang out with the talking dog in the van. Absolutely.
Hello.
Oh my goodness.
That's hilarious.
All right.
Oh
Okay.
my
So let's do some UFO because this is where the brunt of my information is at.
There is a lot of UFO stuff.
Some of the most famous UFO photos you will remember seeing came from this clearing. Crazy enough, you'll recognize a couple of these. So what I'm going to talk about first is the very first person, and it wasn't a UFO so much as a huge light anomaly. And frankly, it could have been a UFO. They were just catching it at the right angle. Did you want to pull that up? There we go. So this was taken back in 1953 by Alexandru Sift. He was a biologist. He was actually attracted to the forest at first because he wanted to study why the trees were growing so weird. He was a biologist and he was really interested in that. And one day he grabbed his dad and was like, let's go haul into this forest and let's take a look at these and take some photos and stuff like that. And they were headed into the forest, and the deeper they got, the weirder things got. And he actually wrote in his journal and stuff what happened. So I'm just going to kind of read a little bit. He described hearing a strange sound that he described as teeth chattering, traveling over some distance. So it sounded like human teeth chattering at him, which is weird.
That's freaky.
He said, yeah. He said it got louder the closer he got to the clearing, and soon he began feeling unwell. He reported nausea and a headache, and then he began hearing the voices of children giggling and whispering. And that's what I was discussing before, people hearing the whispering children sound. Apparently, that's kind of like an omen in the area if you're getting too close to the center or if something's getting ready to go down. Kind of like the reverse of like the oh my gosh, I just lost the name for it. When everything goes quiet right before you see a UFO.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Time storm kind of a situation. Right? He began seeing the shadows of other men who began following him. And this is something else that Pam mentioned earlier. This is something that happens. You'll see these shadow people like right in your peripheral, and they'll kind of follow you in the tree line. So this started happening to him and his dad. He began trying to take pictures of them, but failed. And at the clearing, he took his most famous picture of the giant light anomaly, which Mark had just showed. I have no idea, like I can't grasp measurement in the sky, but that thing is flipping huge.
That looked huge.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really did.
So after this photo, he released this photo, he became infatuated with the forest. And he actually made the study of it his life's work. That's what he did. Now, this is where we're going to go all John Keel. This is where things go haywire.
Woohoo!
So he spent his whole life up until the 90s collecting hundreds of photos of light anomalies and UFOs and things in the forest. And he had years and years of research built up. But he died in the mid 90s. And exactly 1 week after his death, someone broke into his home and stole everything that had anything to do with Hoia Baciu and left everything else. They didn't even touch his money. They just
That's
stole
highly
That
his
speaks
research.
volumes.
Yeah.
Highly suspicious.
Uh-huh.
Like somebody knew something
Yep.
and was trying to hide it.
Very John Keel, I might add.
Yes.
Lord knows the fantastic photos and research that we are now, that's now lost,
Yeah.
that we could have had. So then later on, we have Emile Barnier. I think it's Barnier. Is it
Barnier, Barnier.
Barnier.
Barnea.
Yeah. And he's the one that Mark mentioned earlier. He was the military technician.
Yes.
He got his famous picture August 18th, 1968. He was actually not even there to like study anything. He was there having picnics with friends, having a picnic in the clearing. So apparently it's not shady all the time, or shady feeling, I guess. So he actually went off to collect some wood. And while he was gone, he said he's got a very strange feeling. Everything went very, very quiet. He couldn't hear the birds and the insects, so UFO coming. And then he heard his girlfriend, who was there with him, scream, "Come and look at this." And he goes running back out, and then he sees the very famous photo
Let me see if I
that
can
Mark had thrown up there.
trying to get it to come up on an image file. Let's try
Okay.
this.
Well, while he's doing that, I'm going to keep talking
there we go.
about it. Okay,
Believe this-
so the first one is it.
Yeah.
The second one was taken by him later on. The first one is the very famous one.
That's the one that ended up in the newspapers, isn't it? The first one. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
believe so.
So they said it actually stayed there for a little bit and it was moving. They said they watched it move and it would twist in the sky and it was completely quiet. They said it never made a sound. And they watched it for a couple of minutes and then it suddenly shot off at incredible speed and disappeared. I will make mention, and I have a little note to myself here, this ship, a lot of people claimed it was just a weather balloon, like they always do, but it looks nearly identical to the famous one they took in Santa Ana, California, by Rex Heflin in 1965. And I gave you a picture of that one too, Mark. Yep. It looks an awful like that one. This is another very famous one too, by the way.
So
Yeah. So not long after he released these photos, he started getting visited by strangely dressed people. Here we go again.
Yeah.
That he said had many strange questions. And then after they got done with him, he got taken in by the military, that he was working for at the time. And the military officers grilled him some more about it and then forced him to hand over all of his photos and said, well, we'll give them back to you when we're done. We just need to do a little research. And of course, he never saw those. And the next day, they fired him. They were like, you're out.
yeah,
you're
you're
not
crazy.
in the military anymore.
Ooh.
Yep. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. And then to top it off, to make it even worse, is that from then on out, those same military people that had been his friends started discounting not only him, but any kind of information like that came out of the Hoia Baciu area. And he continued to do some work on it, and they just kept shooting it down as much as they could. And, there you go. The military involvement again. What's that all about? What do
Right.
they have on it? that they need to keep quiet.
Right. Exactly. Let's see. I think I've got another one of those pictures. Doesn't show
Yeah,
up.
there's a few of pictures that were taken by Sift over the years, and some by Adrian Petruit that I was talking about earlier. Adrian Petruit kind of took over for Sift. He was best friends with Sift. He did a lot of that original research with him, and he kind of took over the reins when Sift died in the 90s. And like I said, now he's kind of the guru of the Baciu Forest, and he did a book back in 10 or 20 years ago. I cannot pronounce it, and I'm not going to even try. It's long and scary. Just look up his name, Adrian Petruit, Adrian Patrut. Look up his book and see if maybe you can find a translation of it. But yeah, some of these crazy pictures. I will say I did make note. All the ones that I sent have been confirmed. They have gone through scrutiny, both the original pictures and their negatives, and every one of them that we've shown tonight were claimed to have been real. At least whatever object was being photographed was in the air when they photographed it. Now, whether or not it's an actual UFO or, I don't know, they threw a frisbee in the air, I don't know.
It was an object.
There was an object in the air. It's an original part of the negatives.
Yeah. It's not Photoshop. It's well before Photoshop existed.
Classic flying saucer.
Yeah.
Yes.
That looks a lot. From that angle, that really looks a lot like that California one.
You know what it looks like to me, just glancing at it, and obviously it's not. It looks like a blood cell, like a white platelet or a red blood cell.
I thought it looked like one of those like derby hats.
Yeah.
Like the barbershop quartet singers would wear.
Oh yeah, the little flat straw hats with the little brims.
Yeah. I thought it kind of looked like that.
Or like this.
That other picture you had earlier really looked like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
really, those two pictures look a lot alike. If you were to flip it back upon its edge, I think that those would be almost identical.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. In fact, I believe that they call this one the pie pan.
Yes.
That makes sense, yeah.
Except it's not shaped like any pie pan I've ever seen.
It's a deep dish.
I think it was interesting that it was taken, I think it was only 2 years earlier.
The McMinnville photo? Hi, Sylvain.
Let's see here. Where was it taken at?
Did you see what Enzo posted? The McMinnville? McMinnville? McMinnville?
This one was taken in Santa Ana, California on August 3rd, 1965. So 2 years earlier. Or 3 years earlier.
Oh, so where's my notes? I lost my notes. There they are.
I was telling them, like, I have notes all over the place because I have our original notes from our show. And then I did research a few weeks ago when we were supposed to do this originally, and then we couldn't have it, so I kind of put them away. And then today, I decided to kind of, like, refresh myself a little bit, and I just went kind of looking for fun, and I found more information today. So I've got, like, notes
everywhere,
all over the place, and I need to consolidate them. I need to get them in one spot.
Really, as much stuff as goes on there, we could probably break it down into sections and do a whole show on each section. I'm not going to, but I mean, we could.
Right. It would be. I mean, there's so much. You've got it's like a little Bermuda Triangle, Yeah. You've got your vanishing people, you've got your time anomalies, you've got your ghosts and your cryptids and your UFOs. You got a little bit of everying here.
Yeah,
you've got your electromagnetic disturbances.
Tiny.
Yeah, and the unusual tree growth. The tree growth is really interesting too.
The burnt trees. They have a burnt tree phenomenon too that happens. Apparently they'll walk in the distance the trees will look like they're horribly burnt and disfigured, but the closer you get, they start to right themselves again and they start to look like normal trees.
That's
There's
weird.
nothing normal about any of these trees.
No,
There's nothing normal about the entire place.
no.
I can't imagine, like, a lot of people, if you read online, they're like, oh, it's all just a hoax. They said it. Yeah, there's some of the weird trees. Check that out.
Yeah.
It's crazy. They're like, oh, they just made that up for tourism and this and that. But I cannot imagine that this much has come out of this place.
Well,
for it
besides
to
that,
just be.
how many
There's
years
people
has
who
it been
lost their
happening?
livelihoods because
Oh,
of
yeah.
this. They didn't
Yeah.
make it up for money. I mean,
Definitely not.
it's.
But you're right. Look at that last picture of the trees that you had up, Mark. That's not normal. I mean, you wouldn't expect to see that anywhere. And I look at it. It's covered in moss, and it's obviously old. It's been like that for a very long time.
It's bizarre.
It's
But
very
it's still growing
bizarre is the word.
branches.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It's
the
still
crazy
alive.
part. It's like it was it's like something, it was exposed to something that caused it just
It
to go
looks like the
haywire.
flippin'. It looks like the trees out of Lord of the Rings that, like, can come to life and walk
Yes,
and
and walk
stuff.
around.
Yes,
Yeah,
it does
sure
look like
does.
ants, doesn't it?
Because that looks
Yeah.
like a weird hand and
Tree ants.
Yeah,
Yep.
like one's helping the other one
Yes.
get up or something.
yeah,
So strange.
it's pretty wild.
Yeah, the whole place is just bizarre.
So if you're listening to this, I would highly encourage you to go check it out on YouTube so you could see the pictures that we're talking about because they're fascinating.
And honestly, there is a ton of YouTube videos about this place. Josh Gates, I think, has gone there maybe twice.
At least twice.
So there's like whole ass episodes of that to go watch.
I'll never forget his face when the roof of the plane rips off. Though he's like, I would die. I would just have a
I
heart
would have a
attack and die.
face. Yeah, I'd have a face too. I'd be like,
Yeah.
this would not be good.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the trees are like this.
Hmm.
So
But not all
Yeah.
of them. Look at the
Not all of
trees on the
them,
left.
yeah.
See, they're pretty relatively straight, and they don't look that much younger. At least the trunks aren't that much thinner than
Yeah.
some of the other ones that are bent like
I
that.
have no idea why they would do that.
You know, we
It's
we do
been-
see a phenomena in. I know it's in the Ozarks for sure of different tribes that had physically bent trees and tied them down
Mhm.
to make them point towards water or towards some kind of landmark, but they don't look anything like this.
No, they're not.
Nothing like
No.
this.
That's
And I
just
will
bizarre.
add, so like there's other sections of the forest where this is happening, but higher up in the tree. So the tree's straight at the bottom, and then suddenly it bends like this dramatically, up towards the canopy of the tree. So, and they all turn
Crazy.
this same counterclockwise turn. They're all facing the same way. There has got to be something to it,
Yeah.
magnetic maybe, or yeah, you can see this creepy. Holy
So,
cow,
yeah,
a
it's
creepy picture.
almost like
Yeah.
you know how plants will grow towards the sun, and if you turn the plant, it'll go the other way. It's like that, except since it's a branch or a trunk, it doesn't completely twist back. It's just like I'm going to
If
stay
you
here
went in
while
there
this
in the
part goes.
wrong time of the day, it would just give you the heebie-jeebies like you
Right?
wouldn't believe.
So if you ever think of a place where you would step into fairy, that's what that's what I anticipate it would look like. That right
Yeah.
there. I would envision that.
I did do my
Creepy.
research, and it does not fall on a ley line. But interestingly enough, it falls dead center in the middle of a triangle made by 3 active ley lines. So,
Oh wow.
yeah, there's
That
3
is
ley lines that make
interesting.
a triangle, and it lays right in the center.
So that
Huh.
could be a triangle phenomenon.
Yeah.
Maybe. They do
I-
call
and-
it the Romanian triangle, so.
And a
Mhm.
lot of triangle phenomenon have these sort of things
High
going on.
strangeness. Yeah.
Well, you've got
Maybe it's
UFOs,
like a-
you've got cryptids, you've got disappearances,
Yeah.
reappearances, lost time slips, everything, right there in the middle.
And you've got that thing that excuse me, grabbed. I want to say it was Josh's producer. I can't remember if he was a producer or not. But whatever it was, he was grabbed and slung backwards. And
Yeah, I
you
remember
can-
seeing that.
Yeah,
I
it's
forgot.
crazy. There's a picture of him. I know they have a still off of the footage, and you can see. I mean, you can see him. He's like back bent, flipped, going backwards. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think you can see a snippet of it on YouTube.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I'm sure.
I don't know if
probably
there's.
find that.
Let me look and see if there's a still on this page that I have here. There might be.
Yeah. But Hoia Baciu, holy cow.
Yeah, I mean, I would totally go on a trip to go there. Of course, I'd also have to go see
Dracula's Castle.
Dracula's Castle.
Heck yeah.
Well, and some of the older cities there are just absolutely breathtaking. So, I mean, I'm kind of an architecture nerd too. So,
There it is. See, that's his feet where he was setting crisscross applesauce. See, his ankles are still over top of each other. But look at his arms and everything are pulled backwards, and he's getting slung backwards. That light in his chest was his flashlight that was sitting in his lap.
yeah.
It's crazy.
He was just jerked right off his feet and flung backwards.
Yeah.
Pretty wild.
Horribly haunted. Horribly haunted. And I will it's much like it's not as bad. We talked about the suicide forest before in Japan. This one is slowly becoming that way too. They're having issues with
Stop sharing my notes.
they're having trouble with people going in there to unalive themselves, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
Well,
probably a
with the
little harder to
feelings
do
of
because it's not as big.
paranoia and all kinds of stuff that this place has been known to generate. I wonder if that has anything to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
It may have
Maybe
always
so.
been a little bit that way.
Mhm.
We're just
Or it could
hearing
just-
more of it now.
It could just absolutely be a thin place, between dimensions. Could be a portal, the same thing as a thin place, but maybe not exactly the same, but similar. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Oh, I
Pretty
know one
wild,
thing we
though.
forgot. Occasionally, apparently, and it's never been caught because it happens so quickly. Occasionally, a huge flash of light will come out from that center area and light the entire forest in the middle of the night, but it only lasts maybe like a half a second. It's there and then it's gone. But
It's
they
like a
say that
Stargate.
it's
Like
they
a
say
lightning
it's
flash or
so
something.
bright. Yeah, it lights everything up around it like daytime.
So it's just like a massive flash.
A massive flash just out and then it's gone.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and not often enough somebody could catch it on film.
You know what it makes
No,
me
it
think
happens-
of? You know how you've got the USOs that go underwater? It's almost like it's that, except it's going through the earth right there. Or coming blasting out of it, one or the other.
Coming blasting out. I don't know.
That may be a portal. Hell, I don't know.
I think that's where they go in and out at.
Maybe. I wonder if that's what causes some of the trees to bend like that. The repercussion off of it.
See, that's what I
But
want
they
to know.
don't
I couldn't
all bend. I don't know.
They don't all bend, but they also they say they bend more the closer you get to the circle. But they don't say what do they bend towards the direction of the circle? Like, are they bending towards it or
Or away from.
away from it or to the
Yeah.
side? Are they all pointing like one way, like making, creating like a pointing circle around? Yeah, I don't know. They never mention which way. They
Interesting.
just say they all bend the same way in groupings. But
We're
I don't
going
know
to come
if it's
away with
all-
this with more questions than
We always
came-
do.
Yeah, for sure.
Isn't that our thing?
Yes, it is.
It's our
I-
thing.
I personally am not here to try to solve all the mysteries of the universe.
No.
I just like to point out that there are mysteries in the universe and everybody should be looking.
And they're fascinating.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah, they are. And there's so many more forests than just this one. Like,
Yes.
I have a list of about 15-ish or so across the world that have high strangeness in them. We've discussed a few of them before,
Well,
but
why don't we
Yeah.
pick one or two more off that list, some of the more famous ones? We could just call this the Forest series.
Oh, nice. I like that.
So
We could.
you know, we had uh, the Jaru, or however you pronounce it, in Japan, and then the
Mhm.
Sea of Trees, and you know we've had Hoia Baciu. We could
Mhm.
do one or two more
We
forests,
could. There's plenty of them.
at
We could talk
least
about the
one.
Mark Twain Forest, which is kind of like right
Mark
next
Yeah.
door
Twain
to
Forest
us.
has a lot of
It's in our
weird
back.
stuff.
Yeah, it
We
does.
Mhm.
should go there. It's not that
Yeah.
far.
It
Oh, we
has
could.
the hidden cave in it that the Indians supposedly protect. That's full
Mhm.
of gold and stuff from brought up from the Maya and the Aztecs, and
I am
it's
taking a
supposedly
camper for that one.
it's kind of like their Library of Alexandria. Like all of the tribes' information is held within it. And it's kind of like you hear about like people going after like the gold in Arizona and stuff like that. If you get too close, the black trucks show up
Oh yeah.
with guys
Yeah.
with guns and they won't let you past and all this other stuff. And it's the same story there. The Indians will pop out of the woodwork and be just like, you don't need to be here.
That's
Be gone.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That's a super interesting place.
You
And
leave.
all the oh my goodness. We might have to like bring in some Dark Ozarks people for that one.
Yeah, that would be cool.
There you go. Why don't we do Mark Twain and call that the end of our forest series? Because it is close. We do know some people who know stuff about it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can get an interview. It may not be the immediate next episode, but let's do it soon. Because there is weird stuff in Mark Twain Forest.
Holy cow, there is. It's
And
deep in the Ozarks.
Yes.
that's feeling like a field trip.
Yeah, I would agree. It's not that far.
No, it
We could
really
take
is
I
not.
bet you we could get Lisa
2-3
to
hours.
hop on board with us and
Yeah.
Yep. Like I said, we could rent a camper.
do
I
what's going down the road.
that's my idea of roughing it.
I don't even do that, so no.
So, well, I mean, I'm sure we could find cabins too. So,
Oh, Chris said Mark Twain National Forest is 30 miles from where her mom lived with her folks.
yeah.
Her mom lived with her folks. Yeah,
Mhm.
Yep.
that's cool.
Yeah. I will say,
Yeah.
like, Pam and I drove through there on our way to Kentucky when we
We
went to
did.
go visit Pat Fitzhugh. And you have no idea how tall those trees are until you're right up against them.
They're
They were just
ginormous.
sky high mountain, like mountainous looking trees.
Yeah.
So,
I remember
and
seeing the
dense. I can't
sign
imagine what
for
it would be like walking through there.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
and it's interesting, who was I telling? Somebody I was talking about Kansas, where they think that it's so flat and there's just nothing anywhere. When it was at the paranormal club meeting that we had Saturday. People think that Kansas is flat and there's no way cryptids could be anywhere because it's nothing but wheat fields. Couldn't be further from the truth. There are
Yeah.
nooks and
I mean,
crannies
Western
everywhere.
Kansas is kind of
It's a
that
little
way.
more flat. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
up on
you
the
get out
plateau.
past
Yeah.
you get out past Wichita and Hutchinson. Yeah, it gets pretty flat, but
I wouldn't call it flat. I would call it rolling.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's very rolling, but you can
That's
see a
it's just
long ways.
yes.
But yeah, I always say like people don't realize that the part of Kansas that we're in, we're right on the very corner, the southeast corner of Kansas, and we are literally on the tail end of the Ozarks.
Yeah.
We still have a lot of that rocky outcropping, sand hill kind of stuff. In fact, the
Right.
sand hills that we always talk about, and then the Osage Hills below that, it's the very, very end of that Ozark mountainous range, that
It's
last
right up
little
the
trailing
hills.
section of it.
Yep.
So in our area, we have hills, and I mean, we live in a valley. Our town is named Caney Valley. We live in a
Yeah.
valley
Yeah.
surrounded by sand hills and limestone and all sorts of stuff. So we even have some gypsum in the area.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got all kinds of stuff around here.
yeah.
So,
Yep.
We do.
all right. So, I don't have a whole lot more. Do you guys have anything more we want to talk about?
I
Nope.
think we hit the big points
We
of it.
hit the big stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. Of course, go do your own research. Take a look at it.
Yeah.
If you find something we didn't, let us know about it. We'll
There's
talk
all
about it on the
kinds
show.
of documentaries out there on it. I really recommend if you want to creep yourself out.
Oh, it looks
Or-
like we have somebody new in the chat.
We do. I just noticing that.
We have Gregory Kraft. Hello for the Appalachian Mountains. Talk about some creepy backwoods stuff.
There's some creepy forest out there. So
that could be its own podcast, just that
That
topic
could be.
alone, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure there's tons of them on it already
so,
too.
yeah.
That would be a fun episode.
That would be a
to
fun
talk
episode.
about some of that.
And thank you for stopping by and listening to our live, Gregory. We hope you have enjoyed our little chat, and please stop by again and participate in the chat. We appreciate the feedback as we go along, and questions. We love questions.
For sure.
So,
Yep.
thank you very much.
Well, before we leave, should we talk about Kansas UFO Day really quick?
Yes,
Absolutely.
can't talk about that.
Yeah. So July 5th, I believe it is, right?
Yes.
The first
Yes.
Saturday of July.
Yep.
Geneseo. Did I say it right? Geneseo?
You did. Geneseo.
Not Geneseo.
Yay!
Okay. Geneseo. Yay! A
Woohoo.
little tiny town called Geneseo, Kansas. They host the big Kansas UFO Day Festival there. It'll be on the 5th. And we're going to be there giving a couple of panels. We're going to be talking about the 1970 or 1878 Kansas or the UFO flap, the airships. We're going to be talking about the Kansas UFO Triangle. We're going to do a Q&A session in the afternoon. We're going to talk a little bit about what it is we do and allow everybody to ask questions about anything, not just UFOs. So that'll be fun. They have vendors and food people and a parade and
Chalk art
the big...
contest.
The chalk art contest.
Mhm.
And the museum will be open. The museum is packed full of fantastic 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s UFO memorabilia. Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. Just to go into the museum is worth it.
It's
Oh,
the
I love the
coolest.
museum.
Yeah. It is
Yeah.
the
There is
coolest.
so much stuff packed in such a tiny space in that place. It was the doctor's house.
Doc Jansen.
Doc Jensen back in the 50s, and he was into anything. He was a medical doctor. I believe he had a chiropractor certificate.
Mhm.
CPA, maybe?
He wrote and read Braille.
All kinds of stuff. He
Yeah.
wrote and read Braille. The guy was very intelligent.
He had an absolute fascination with UFOs, and he would. This was back in the 40s and 50s when you didn't have, you couldn't just call someone on the phone. A lot of people didn't have phones. You had to like physically travel to them, and he spent a lot of his time traveling to these people that he heard had sightings, and he would take a reel-to-reel basically and record them talking. And so there's tons of these reel-to-reels that David Zerfus, Jim Gray's friend that's over the Kansas UFO Day, he has been spending his time getting those transferred over onto like audio
media.
files. Yeah, and digitizing them. And they're fascinating because you can hear the people talk in the way people talk then. And it's just so neat to hear. And it's grainy and scratchy and very cool.
And if you can't get to Geneseo, maybe you can get to our Paracon in September, where Jim Gray will be doing a presentation. He's going to play some of those audio recordings for us. So,
and if you're not in the area, like I know our friend Sylvain, he's not anywhere near us. We are going to live stream those too. So if you want to tune in, you can watch them on live stream. They'll be available for rewatch later too on YouTube.
Yep.
and we'll get that information out a little closer to time for everybody, and post it. We can post it up on the What If Tomorrow Media and What If Tomorrow podcast pages, and we can post that up on Bordertown Strange.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
remind everybody how to get to those lives, and we actually have more people watch the lives and the recordings than we do actually show up. I would love to have everybody who watches the lives show up, but we wouldn't be able to fit them all in the venue.
No, we definitely couldn't, but it's fun. Be fun to try.
Yeah, we do broadcast that for everybody to enjoy, and it is free.
Yes.
Just like
Free to the
UFO
public.
Day in Geneseo, it is a free event. Show up with your family. And ours is
Dress
12
up.
and up.
Yeah.
Dress up if you want. Yeah.
Yeah, they have a parade and everything. So
So it'll be a lot of fun. Both events will be a lot of fun.
it's a good time.
Please show up.
Enzo said, "Free, my favorite thing. Woohoo!"
Yeah. Enzo will be there
Is
too.
good.
He will be there.
Enzo
Yes.
is good. Fashion
Yeah.
icon and podcast legend.
The majority of our team will be there. Enzo, the three of us will be there. Enzo will be there. Scotty's planning on being there. So yeah,
Yeah,
be
It
really
should be
cool.
fun.
a good time will be had by all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not to mention our marathon of games in the evening.
Oh Lord.
Oh no.
Yeah.
We should
The
instead of
backstage stuff
Cards
has been
Against
interesting.
Humanity. It should be called Crimes Against Humanity. I don't know.
It was rough.
We may have had too much to drink and too much card game. Just saying.
You're
Yeah.
telling on us, Jess.
Maybe.
We're all
Maybe.
adults. It's okay.
We weren't driving.
Yeah.
We weren't at the festival drunk.
No.
It was the evening. You know, we
After.
finished our job for the day and it was time to relax. So we may
Around the kitchen
have had
table.
some pizza and libations.
Enzo may need a second bottle of whiskey.
We can
Potentially.
make that happen.
Potential. We can't make that happen. We can. So
Too funny.
we should live stream that.
Oh God, no.
Oh Lord. We'll lose
No.
all of our viewers. They'll be like, these
Gain a
people
whole
are
bunch of
giving
new
us
ones.
information.
One or the other. Oof.
Oh no. No,
If
no,
anybody gets their phone out to do a live, I'm taking it.
Oh yeah. Not good. Shots for the Q&A. Every wrong answer we drink. Oh, that would be bad.
Oh.
Would be bad.
Oh.
So bad.
All
Even Chris
right.
is
Well,
like,
yeah, the triple face palm. It's bad. All right, guys. Well, I don't have much else. If you guys are good, we will say good night. Farewell.
Yeah.
Auf Wiedersehen. I'm sure there's a song in there someplace.
Are you sure?
Oh my Lord.
I am not sure of anything. It got really hot today.
It was very hot. I'm sorry you were stuck in that.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's the humidity, and I felt very much like that frog in a pot of water.
Yeah.
It just kept getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and I'm pretty sure I was just about boiled.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So
I went from air conditioner to air conditioner today. That's all I did.
sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan. All right, guys. Well, I'd like to wish everybody a good night, and we will see you next time on the Fringe. And what are you guys going to talk about on Bordertown Strange on next Wednesday?
We're going to do the second part of Omens and Harbingers and all of that jazz. We got so much information, there was no way to pack it into one show. We may not be able to pack it into two shows. We're going to
find
see.
out. Yeah, we're going to try.
I can't wait. So
It's
yeah,
pretty
tune
fun.
in next Wednesday to
At
Border
7
Town
p.m.
Strange.
Yep.
7 p.m.
Not this Wednesday, but a week from Wednesday.
Yes, a week
Yeah.
from Wednesday, and enjoy.
Oh,
These
yeah.
ladies, they're pretty awesome. So,
We're pretty crazy.
Pretty
well, I mean,
sticking
you
on
hang
I
out
don't know.
with me, it's bound to happen. I have that effect on people.
Too fun.
You do, sir. You do.
I
Yeah.
do. Welcome to Crazy Town, otherwise known as the What If Tomorrow and On the Fringe podcasts.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, have a good night. We'll just keep chatting if you let us. So,
Yeah.
y'all have a good night, and we'll see you next time.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night.